Mom, Dad's being weird again.
Luscious.
Honey,
So full.
it's just grass.
Oh, it's so much more than just grass. It's a healthier, greener, and more luscious lawn. Yours can be too.
Look at you.
With Kabursky Brothers Lawn Care.
Remember, no shoes on the lawn. Because you're so beautiful.
Call or click today.
Shane Gillis, live on stage.
I'm a bit of a history buff, which, by the way, that is early onset Republican.
His biggest tour ever is coming to Des Moines.
If you're a white dude in your 20s and 30s and you're like, I can't stop reading about World War II, it's coming, bro.
See Shane Gillis with his unmistakable comedic style. Live at Wells Fargo Arena Saturday, May 31st. Get tickets now at iowaeventcenter.com. For more, visit ShaneMGillis.com.
Hello and welcome into Bigger Than 12. Remote, unfortunately, after our first ever in-person show that was a blast. It was one of the most fun shows I've ever had. Derek Duke is back in Texas after a weekend up in the great state of Iowa. Welcome, Derek.
Thank
or I
you.
guess welcome back, I should be saying.
Yeah, as you can see behind me here, this isn't the studio where we were last week, so I guess it means I am back home in South Texas. And I'll say this, I felt right at home. As soon as the plane landed on Sunday night, it was like 90 degrees and humid outside, so that was a nice welcome back for me. It does make me miss the cold I did get to experience up there, although I did bitch about it a little on Friday night when we were standing outside, but I do miss it.
It was a fun weekend, and we're gonna get into it in just a bit. We'll actually close the show with a full weekend recap of Derek's 72 hours in the great state of Iowa.
Not long enough.
Yeah, I'm sure it was long enough for your liver though. It probably could have trimmed that time off a couple minutes.
I could do a couple more days.
Well, we got a good show in store for you today. We're gonna recap the NFL draft. Going to take a Big 12 angle on it, talk Shedeur Sanders like everybody has spent the last couple days doing, but we'll also talk some Cyclones getting drafted, and also Travis Hunter, the second overall pick in the NFL draft. That's a Colorado guy right there. After that, we're going to rank the Big 12 stadiums, or we're going to do a draft 1 through 8. Derek and I. Yep, we'll both pick our teams in a snake draft. And then we'll close with a recap of Derek's trip up to Central Iowa. We'd like to start, as always, by thanking our presenting sponsor, WealthCharter Retirement. WealthCharter, my gosh. WealthCharter Retirement Planning and Tax. It was also a long weekend for me, not just Derek. WealthCharter, Tim Hawkins and his team, it's a great time for them to take your call. Tax season is in the rear view mirror, and they can help get your retirement accounts set up, or if you just need a general meeting to talk financial advice, they'll be happy to take your call. Or you can visit wealthcharterretirement.com to schedule an appointment at their office in Ankeny. Let's start with the sports story of the weekend, which is crazy considering how good of a weekend it's been for the NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NFL draft. It all comes down to a 5th-round pick, Shedeur Sanders, to Cleveland. Derek, I know you've got some thoughts on it. I'll just tee you up and let you go.
Yeah, I actually wrote about this on Sunday morning for my drive down. My wife was driving from Des Moines down to Kansas City because I didn't think, it's crazy for me to be writing about that on Sunday because I didn't think Shedeur was going to be there on Saturday. Forget about being the biggest storyline of the Big 12. Shedeur Sanders was the biggest storyline in the entire draft this year. It's crazy to me that a guy with the first-round grade fell all the way to the 5th round. And I know Mel Kiper, who did not have his best weekend by any means, had a complete meltdown on live TV about it. But he said the same thing. He's never seen a player in his 40-plus years of covering the draft to have a first-round grade fall all the way to the 5th round. You could say what you want about Shedeur Sanders as a person, but as a player, all I know that man broke countless school records at Colorado. He's arguably the best quarterback in school history there. and was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. You don't accomplish any of those things without being a damn good football player. Simple as that. Now, did he handle himself the way everybody wanted him to? No. He should have interviewed with every team instead of, I think, the top 5 you said, Jake, when we were talking about it this weekend, because you never know what could happen. You never know where you can end up or what team. I mean, maybe there's a team out there that's willing to trade for you in the top 5 to go and get you, but you don't even interview with them, so it just didn't make any sense to me. That was probably a mistake on his part. But to have 5 quarterbacks drafted ahead of Sanders, like, I get Cam Ward, who was the number 1 overall pick, but guys like Dylan Gabriel, who's on his own team, Tyler Show, Jalen Milroe, I mean, give me a break. Those guys aren't even on the same planet as Shedeur. And with all that said, I do think it's funny that the Browns, the ones that drafted him, I couldn't believe it because they actually drafted Dylan Gabriel 2 rounds ahead of Sanders. And by the way, just looking, I read something this morning about the Cleveland quarterback situation, not to talk too much Browns here, but what in the hell are they doing? You have the creep Deshaun Watson hurt for the season. They bring in Joe Flacco, who's washed up, Kenny Pickett, and now they draft Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Like, that GM should be fired today.
I'd love to see what Circa Sports Iowa will have Cleveland's win total open up at this season, because it's a talented roster. Myles Garrett on the defensive side, like that's been a good team for the last few years, but they just happened to make probably the worst trade in NFL history. I know there's the Herschel Walker trade. I guess maybe not worst trade's fair, but they signed Deshaun Watson to the worst contract in NFL history, and they had to trade a lot to even do that. That's besides the point, though. My thoughts on Shedeur have changed a little bit over the weekend, and a lot of it comes down to, like, I'm not an NFL scout. I can't sit in a room like that and honestly critique, like, what would I give this quarterback? Would I give him a first, a second, a third round grade? I haven't watched every single rep of every single player like I know that these scouts have. So I can't say in confidence what I would have given Shedeur as a grade. But what I will say is, if it's true, and like it's been reported that no NFL team had a first round grade on him, I think it makes his slide to the 5th round make a lot more sense, because I think he was probably the second best quarterback in the class, maybe 3rd behind Jackson Dart. That's my opinion, but it was also a very weak quarterback class. Like, if you go back to last year, who knows if he's the 6th or 7th, and the 6th or 7th quarterback in a class going in the 5th round makes sense. So I don't think the weak, watered down draft altogether of this year should influence my opinion too much. But it makes sense in the way if you've got a 3rd round grade on him or a 2nd round grade on him, why would you want the headache of Dion? Why would you want the headache of having a backup quarterback who will be more recognizable than your starting quarterback? And that's where I can't fault NFL teams for allowing him to slide and passing up on him 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. And who knows? Maybe they'll regret it. They very well could. He has the arm talent. He's got a strong arm, an accurate arm. It's just a matter, is he the athlete to be able to... I know he could maybe evade a little bit at Colorado, but he took a lot of sacks. The defensive linemen that he'll see in the NFL are going to be a lot better than he saw in the Big 12. So that will be his downfall if he ever does get a real chance to play the starting quarterback position in the NFL.
See, and I hate that point because I think he had the worst offensive line maybe in
it was
football.
Bad. It was awful.
It was so bad. I don't think people understand how bad it was. So when I hear him taking sacks and I hear about that, like, the guy was running for his life every single snap, put up absurd numbers, the best numbers in the Big 12 for a starting quarterback. And then even if teams didn't have a round grade on Shedeur, which I don't know if I quite buy, when every single scout in the NFL and all these guys that do the draft have first round grades on him, most of them had him in the top 10 or at least in the first round. I think almost every single draft guru out there had him as the second rated quarterback, maybe the third behind Jackson Dart and Cam Ward, depending on who you ask. But I mean, come on, Dylan Gabriel 2 rounds ahead of Shedeur Sanders doesn't make any sense to me. Neither does Tyler Show. Jalen Milroe, we talked about that one too. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't care how much. And here's the thing, Dion is going to have his hands full every Saturday, every weekend with Colorado. It's not like he's going to be there every single Sunday on the sidelines or anything like that with the team. So I don't know how much I buy into it. To me, I hope Sanders, I wish him well. He was a great player in college, but I just don't get how he fell that far. It's still mind-boggling to me even right now.
Yeah, I think if you're an NFL team, when you're drafting a quarterback, and only 6-7 teams this year needed a quarterback, straight up needed one. When you're drafting one, I think you're drafting a quarterback with the thought in mind, is this guy going to be a top 15 or top 20 quarterback? And I don't know if Sanders will. I don't know if Cam Ward will be. I think Ward's got a shot. But if you don't have that confidence in that, there's no way that he's worth the headache. And whether that's brought on by himself, which I'm sure it is a little bit, and the entitlement that he clearly showed sometimes, or whether it's brought on by his dad or the media. And some of it's not even brought on by him. It's brought on by people like you and me that are going to be in the room asking questions about if he's, let's say, in Vegas. And we're like, well, Geno threw 2 picks today. When's Shedeur coming up? You can see why a coach or a GM wouldn't want to deal with that every single week. But again, I'm not going to act like I expected him to fall to the 5th round. I thought he was going to be a first-round pick. I thought he would maybe go in the late 20s. To fall that far, to get drafted behind 4 Iowa State players, that I did not expect that to happen at all, and it's going to go down as one of the most interesting draft storylines of our lifetime.
Well, that's a good way to segue into our next topic there. Speaking of Iowa State.
Yeah, 4 Cyclones drafted, 2 of them to your Houston Texans. Jaden Higgins, the 34th overall pick in the 2nd round. Darian Porter and Jalen Knoll, both 3rd-round picks. Jalen Travis, left tackle, becomes the highest drafted Cyclone lineman since 2013. Just a really, really solid draft for Iowa State. Maybe the best in school history. And your Houston Texans are getting 2 of them. Well,
all right.
Whatever, 4 days later, how are you feeling about Higgins and Knoll going to H-Town?
I think I want to start by what a damn draft for Iowa State. The 4 players drafted in the first 4 rounds in the draft. And by the way, that 4 was actually tied for the most in the Big 12. And I found this stat too pretty interesting. There were 11 schools to have at least 4 more players selected in the first 4 rounds of the draft. Iowa State was one of them. Think about that for a second.
It's pretty dang cool.
That is just crazy to me. And obviously, as a Texans fan, I was happier than a pig in shit. I mean, for Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel to come to Houston, what a moment that was. Higgins was the 2nd highest pick for Iowa State, I think, in the last, 50 years? Only behind Will McDonald, I think.
Yep, since Georgia Munson back in 1973, I believe.
Yeah, and he definitely deserves it. And it was pretty cool to see Jalen get picked. All 3 of us were together with Van Winkle when Noel got drafted, and me and Van Winks went nuts, and I think you caught that on camera, Jake. Even the guy singing on stage at the brewery we were at in Bondurant stopped the song for that moment. That was really cool, and the fact that they get Xavier Hutchinson's there is truly awesome. It's the Houston Cyclones now. It really is. I've seen a bunch of edits and logos, which are pretty awesome. Jake and Aiden, you guys are going to need to stock up on your Texans gear. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think you guys should maybe buy a jersey or something. But I also like Darian Porter going to the Raiders. Great for pick for them. You mentioned Jalen Travis to the Colts. I think both of those guys are probably going to see the field this year. In fact, I think it's safe to say that all four of these guys are going to see playing time at some point this season. But overall, it was a memorable weekend, not just for me up there, but for Matt Campbell and Iowa State. He truly is building that program up each and every year with quality players, and I think you're starting to see that each year now in the NFL draft.
Yeah, it's cool because with Houston, like going into the draft and reading all the mock drafts and reading the scouting reports, pretty much every single scouting report that I read, Jaden Higgins' player comp was Nico Collins, like almost unanimously. And that's a high standard to live up to. He was like the best fantasy wide receiver in the league last year. It's not fair to put those expectations on Higgins, but the fact that Houston would go and get a guy whose prototype is really similar to their wide receiver one, I think that's really cool, and I think it's a testament to what Matt Campbell has done. He's put so many guys in the NFL, and almost all of them have been productive, at least the ones that have been drafted relatively high, that it's not a risk anymore to take a player that went to Iowa State, which 10, 15 years ago, why would you take a player that went to Iowa State? Why would an NFL draft caliber player go to Ames? It was not career suicide. I don't think that's fair, but it wasn't exactly a hotbed for NFL talent. And now year in, year out, it's happening. And the faith of an organization to take two of the most important positions on the field, wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3, to take them from the same school, it's almost unheard of. And now you've got Xavier Hutchinson there. There's a shot, as long as Hutchinson makes the roster, which I know is not a guarantee, there's a shot that Iowa State receivers could be wide receiver 2, 3, and 4 on an NFL team next year that will and should be in the playoffs. That I can't wrap my head around that.
So are you buying? Are you and Aiden getting the jersey, or what are we waiting on here?
You send it up to me.
Oh God, I'm not buying it.
No, I'm kidding.
I gotta get my own.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll make like a deal, or like a milestone, or
there we go,
some sort of bet. I do want to talk a little bit about Darian Porter. If you're an Iowa State fan listening, you're probably familiar with the story. If you're a Big 12 fan listening, you probably don't. Darian Porter graduated high school the same year as me, 2019. He was a 6th-year senior at Iowa State. He committed as a wide receiver. He played his first, I believe, 2 seasons as a wide receiver. Didn't see the field much. And then they flipped him to cornerback. He didn't get much action on defense. Was primarily a special teams player. He rode the course and became a standout cornerback as a 6th-year senior and a freak athlete. He broke state records in high school track when he was at Bettendorf in eastern Iowa. And he finally was able to put that athleticism to use on defense. He was one of the best special teams player in the country for a couple of years. And it's just a cool story of a guy who, I mean, how many players like that after 2 years say, yeah, you're probably not going to play receiver here, so we're going to flip you to defense. You'd probably say, oh, I'm in the transfer portal. I'm going to maybe drop down a level, go play wide receiver in the MAC. He didn't. He wanted to play for Coach Campbell. He wanted to play for Iowa State, and he ended up being one of the 5 most important players on the best team in Iowa State football history. And now he's an NFL draft pick, and I think he's going to have a long career. It's just an awesome story.
Worked out well for him. And Jalen Travis, for that matter.
Yeah, Travis, he's a cool story too. An Ivy League kid, transfers to the Big 12. He had offers, according to Brent Bloom, he had offers to play elsewhere for a lot more money, but he might not have started took a little less money to go prove himself at Iowa State, and not only turns himself into a NFL draft pick, he turns himself into a fourth rounder. And fourth round offensive linemen often get a shot pretty early on to prove themselves. And yeah, that just a really cool week for Iowa State.
Yep. Like I said, I think all 4 guys have a shot at good playing time this year.
We're going to talk about Travis Hunter in just a second. First, I'd love to give a shout out to Freedom Tire. I got to go this week. I'm a little overdue for an oil change. They'll change my oil. They'll do it quick. And if I've got any other problems, they will take care of that. And they'll be straightforward and honest with me, because that's what they do at their locally owned Iowa locations. They got locations in Ames, Altoona, West Des Moines, and Urbandale. Quentin Crowner and his great team will take care of you for anything you need. They specialize in tires, of course, so if you need new tires, if you need rotations, but they do it all. Anything that you could possibly need with your car, Freedom Tires got that handled. We also love to give a shout out to Circa Sports Iowa. It's a great time of year. I actually put out a Twitter poll today ranking the quarters of the year for sports viewing, because I was just thinking about, man, right now is one of the best sports times of the year. NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, the PGA championships in a couple weeks, Major League Baseball, it's in full swing. The WNBA is coming up. Like, so many different sports that you can bet on, and no one's got better lines than Circa Sports Iowa. Sign up today at the Circa Sports Iowa app, or you can go to Circa Sports online at their website. And like, they truly have better odds. Like that, we don't just say that. They've got better odds because that's how they want to get you on their app, and they'll take care of you, and they're great for their customers. So go check out Circa Sports Iowa, and of course, bet responsibly. Travis Hunter goes number 2 in the NFL draft. That wasn't a shock at all. It was a surprise, though, that the Browns traded out of the 2 spot and traded to Jacksonville. We were at Brooks and Dunn, so I don't even think I realized that this happened until like an hour later. But when I heard that Jacksonville traded up, I was surprised, because I couldn't believe that a team like Cleveland, that doesn't exactly attract stars all that often, I was surprised that they would have traded out of this generational talent.
Well, maybe they knew they were going to get their star with Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, so they decided to wait. But I hated to see him go to Jacksonville, because selfishly they're in the Texans division, but he deserved to go at 2, maybe even 1, depending on who you ask. But for Jacksonville to trade up and get him showed that they really wanted him there. I saw their GM on Saturday, and I mean, I'll say this, his horrible attempt at a mustache, which just shaved that damn thing off already, man. But I'll give him credit for getting the guy that he wanted, even if it meant trading up for him. And it sounds like, from when he was talking, that Travis will play on both offense and defense, and why not? He did it better than anyone in college in my lifetime, and probably, I don't know, the last, 50 years? And from what I read, it sounds like they're going to bring him up to speed on offense and then sprinkle in some defense for him. So, and who knows, maybe he ends up being great on both sides of the ball. Maybe it works out for him one way or the other. Either way, the Jags got a hell of a football player. There's a reason Travis won the Heisman Trophy last year as a non-quarterback. He's a one-in-a-lifetime kind of talent. He truly is.
Am I crazy for thinking it should be inverse? Like, he should be playing both sides of the ball, no doubt. But if he's a generational cornerback, I think he should be playing defense primarily and sprinkle in on offense. One that you'd think would keep him healthier than the inverse. He wouldn't be getting hit as much as a DB. And I think elite defensive backs are a lot more valuable and a lot harder to come by in the NFL than elite wide receivers.
That's fair.
Like if my team drafted him, I'd want him playing both sides. I wouldn't want him playing every snap. I wouldn't. The snap count that he played at Colorado, that's going to have to go down. Like that, it's just not sustainable. There's a reason that it isn't done, but he's also proven to be so elite in conditioning that he was able to do more than any player has in a long time, and more power to him for that. It's incredible. But if he was coming to my team, I think I would rather see him play 70% of his snaps on defense, 30% on offense, and it sounds like it's going to be the other way in Jacksonville.
Hey, Deion did both. Deion did both when he was in the NFL.
Yeah, but
not as a highly touted receiver like Travis Hunter is. Travis Hunter, I think, is a more complete receiver, but
there's been players that have played one side of the ball and been sprinkled in on the other side. There hasn't been a player that's actually played both sides in a really, really long time.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think he's going to do more than we've seen. And that's going to be pretty dang cool to watch. And selfishly, I wish it wasn't in Jacksonville, because when are the Jags on TV up here? When do I have a reason to watch Jacksonville? Not that often.
That's fair.
I guess twice a year when they play the Iowa State Texans.
Yeah, we do
at
get
least
them twice a year. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, that was a great NFL draft, and I probably watched as little of it as I have in my entire life because you were in town.
I kept up with it during the day. One more thing I do want to mention here on the draft: Oklahoma State's Ollie Gordon went to the sixth round in Miami. I kind of wanted to note that because coming into last season, I think we were both extremely high on him. I had him as the Big 12 Player of the Year last season. I had him going to New York for the Heisman ceremony. High expectations for Ollie Gordon. Unfortunately, just between whatever it was with him going on the field, I know his, much like Shedeur at Colorado, Ollie's offensive line at Oklahoma State was absolutely atrocious. So didn't have those big gaping holes to run through. Just didn't really have the stats or nearly the numbers that he put up in 2023. So really kind of sucks to see him fall, because I really thought he could have been probably a second round pick, at worst a third round pick, probably going into the year. But for him to fall all the way to the sixth round of Miami, it really kind of sucks. But hey, he got a shot, so I hope he makes the most of it there with the Dolphins.
Kind of wish there was a Freedom Tire down in Miami, because Ollie Gordon's got a lot of tread on his tires. He wasn't exactly well taken care of by his not saying that they put him in harm's way, but Oklahoma State ran that guy a lot, and I can't imagine that helped in his NFL draft case. Another, I guess, while we're on the topic of Big 12 running backs, it's cool to see RJ Harvey go to Denver. That's a team that needs a running back. I think it's a good fit, and we could be talking about him as a potential really good sleeper in fantasy football next year. Harvey's a stud, and he was not in the best of situations at UCF on a team that couldn't throw the ball if they had a gun to their head.
And he's built and he put up the stats last year. He put up the numbers even with crowded boxes, and he's got the build of an NFL running back. He's one strong dude.
All right, let's move on to our Big 12 football stadium draft. Again, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff like this in the offseason, whether 2 shows ago we ranked the Big 12 newcomers. This week will be Big 12 stadiums. Might do quarterbacks, coaches, uniforms. If you have suggestions, feel free to tweet them out at Derek or I or the Iowa Everywhere account, because we're open to them. So, I guess we don't have a coin. We don't want to. We don't want to flip a coin
again.
The last time we
again.
Yeah, the last time we flipped a coin, it completely crashed Aiden's stream, and we didn't hear from him for weeks. So, Aiden, do you want to do like a closest to number, like 1 through 10 or something?
Sure.
So think of a number, I guess, and then we'll both say on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, 7.
7. Oh my God. We both said 7.
Damn it, Derek.
You both lose.
Okay.
Say a different number.
All right, I'm gonna go 3.
It was 1.
All right, you get first.
So Derek, or is it snake draft or is it?
We'll just do snake draft.
We'll do snake draft.
Might want to go second, Derek.
You can choose if you want to go first or second, I guess.
No, I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. My number one stadium is going to be LaVell Edwards Stadium for BYU. I think I think the atmosphere there is incredible, especially at nighttime. That place is a damn tough place to play. I think it speaks for itself. The atmosphere, you see it on TV all the time. I think it's the best atmosphere in the Big 12, hands down.
Dang it. That's where I was going to go first. So I'll go with Boone Pickens Stadium, number 2. I know Oklahoma State had a down year, but man, when Stillwater's rocking and they've got the paddles, I know like Jake Remsburg and Gyro Brock had a podcast on Cyclone Fanatic last year with Jacqueline Cordova and Colin Newell, and they all were like unanimously saying that Boone Pickens, when it's rocking, is the loudest stadium in the Big 12. And
the paddles.
Yeah, I got to go see a game. Honestly, maybe next year will be the year where I get down to Stillwater. And with my second pick, 3rd overall, I'll be a homer. I'll go Jack Trice Stadium. It's maybe not the most well-built to be as loud as a lot of other stadiums, but the results speak for itself as far as the amount of top 25 teams that have gone down. Matt Campbell's record in Big 12 play at Jack Trice Stadium. The fans show out. The fans know how to be loud, and it's maybe got the best tailgating atmosphere in the entire conference. I'll go with Jack Trice Stadium as my second pick.
I am going to take Bill Snyder Family Stadium, Kansas State. I think much like Iowa State and Jack Trice, I think they're very comparable. Great atmosphere there at the Bill Snyder Family Stadium. They win a lot there. I think their records there speaks for itself. Bill built that house from the ground up, literally. So I think it's got a special plate in K-State's fans' hearts. And it's a really cool place to be. Manhattan, Kansas, great college town, too.
You got another one, too?
I do. A little bit torn by this one, but I'm going to go Milan Pusker Stadium, West Virginia. I think maybe one of the most underrated places to go to visit. Morgantown, much like Manhattan, Kansas, great college town. That stadium, it can get pretty rowdy, as we all know. So I really like the atmosphere there in Morgantown. So I'm going to take West Virginia Stadium there.
So the one that I was going to take 3 against Jack Trice is actually still there, and that is Rice Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City. The Utes, we didn't get to see it really at full force last year. Except, I mean, the game against BYU, the stadium was like, it looked like it was going to collapse on TV watching that game. Everyone that I know, like really good friend Jeff Dubroff, who works at KCCI Channel 8 in Des Moines, he went to USC, so he's experienced like what that stadium does to other old Pac-12 schools. I think Utah eventually will be back. They might suck this year again, but when they're good, that stadium is completely rocking, and I honestly can't believe I got him as my 3rd pick. And then the next one, I'll go another one that we probably haven't seen at the full force in the Big 12 yet, the Bounce House, FBC Mortgage Stadium for UCF. When they were, oh man, that picture doesn't do me any justice looking at the attendance behind the cheerleaders.
It was so hard to find a picture with the stadium not empty last year.
But when UCF was in the American and when they were having their 13-0 season and when they were year in, year out, one of the best schools in the American, the Bounce House was feared by other schools. And if Scott Frost can get that program back to the level that it should be, because they're in a talent hotbed, I would be terrified of playing in Orlando.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've experienced the Bounce House firsthand when it was sold out. It's an awesome experience. I'd recommend anybody to go down to Orlando and check that out. I'm going to go Folsom Field, Colorado. I think, of course, prior to Dion, there wasn't a ton of success there, but I think with him back, it's a great stadium. It's a kind of a historic. It's been around for a very long time. I think like 100 years or something like that. So it's been around for a while. I think it's an underrated stadium. Plus, you get Ralphie running on the field. I think that's probably one of the best entrances in all college football. One of the best mascots too.
Bonus points for the view.
Yes.
I haven't been there for a game, but I was in Boulder last year. Breathtaking.
Yes. My next one, another tough one. Some of these kind of jumbled together for me, but I think I'm gonna go with Jones AT&T Stadium, Texas Tech. Absolutely. I've been there for multiple games there. Rowdy crowd. There's tortillas flying everywhere. I think it's a really great place for a football game. Really out in the middle of nowhere, West Texas. It's an awesome place to be on a Saturday.
Well, you made my next two picks easy because I was down to Texas Tech in these next two, which I'm going to go with Nippert Stadium, Cincinnati. It's actually the smallest capacity-wise in the Big 12, but I've heard firsthand from Brent Bloom, who went to the game 2 years ago, the way that it's built kind of into the ground, it makes it almost looks like a basketball stadium on like an overhead view. And I've heard that it gets really loud there. Of course, they're going to need maybe someone other than Scott Satterfield to help it reach its full potential. And then this is probably recency bias, but I got to go with Mountain America Stadium, Arizona State. Maybe not the best atmosphere at the start of the year, but as Kenny Dillingham got that thing rolling and rolling more over the year, it became a place that nobody wanted to go. I remember that Friday night game against Utah, camera shaking, the BYU game where you had the field storming and then get everyone off the field, have one more snap and then storm the field again. It looks like a great stadium, and it looks like a great place to see a game out there in the desert.
I'm going to go with kind of, I guess, some home state picks here. I'm going to go Amon G. Carter Stadium, TCU. I've been there a couple times. Depending on the year, I guess, kind of depends on the crowd. They've done a lot of renovations there in Fort Worth. Fort Worth, to me, is also a great city. I love that city to death. I think a good TCU game packs the crowd. They get the foghorn going. I think it's probably one of the more underrated venues in the Big 12. And then next, I'm going to go right down the road, down 35, McLean Stadium, Baylor. I know it kind of gets a lot of flack for kind of looking like a toilet bowl when you look kind of over the head of it. But, man, I tell you what, if you're up kind of sitting in the second level, you get the view of the Brazos River. It's probably one of the most beautiful backdrops in the Big 12. Another stadium I feel like doesn't get really talked about a whole lot. Plus, with the roof kind of overhead, the little covering overhead, it can get pretty loud in here. I think it's probably one of the most underrated stadiums in the conference.
Well, these last three, it was hard to rank them because none of them are thought very highly of. So I'll just go with the novelty of being out in Arizona. When you're out in Arizona, you typically get a lot of late games. Weird stuff can happen at Big 12 after dark. I'll go Arizona Stadium for the Arizona Wildcats. I don't know much about this atmosphere. Arizona hasn't had many great teams in the last 10 years, but I'll go with that over KU and Houston. And for my next one, I'll go KU. Kind of a cop-out pick because I don't know what the future of the stadium is going to look like once the renovations are done. Yeah, thank you, Aiden, for the picture of the renovations. I can confidently say, though, before the renovations that it was maybe the worst Power 5 football stadium by far. But that's a growing fan base. It's a growing program. It's a pretty loyal program. I think once that stadium gets renovated, it could maybe become a decent football atmosphere. But
no more porta potties.
Probably just decent. I still don't see Kansas football ever having a great atmosphere.
Yeah, hopefully no more porta potties because that was awful. That was embarrassing. That was terrible. Well, I guess I'm stuck with TDECU Stadium down in Houston. Yeah, pretty empty. I'm sure if you go to a local high school football game in Houston, you'll probably see crowds of 5 to 10 times more people there. So, but hopefully Willie Fritz gets that thing turned around there. I'm not a big fan of Houston Stadium just in general, but
It's really small, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the smallest in the Big 12. Not in the best of areas down in Houston. Not a lot of parking. Really no tailgate scene. God, I just don't want to be shitting on Houston here, but I don't know. Hopefully again, Willie Fritz will get that thing turned around. They get that stadium packed again.
They got enough love from us during March Madness. I think
That's fair. That's true.
I think they can probably handle it just fine. So now what we've all been waiting for, we're going to recap Derek's trip to Iowa. We'll probably start with the question that everybody's wondering. How many beers do you think you drank in this great state?
Why does everybody keep obsessing with that question? Everybody's so curious about that.
Well, so in our group chat, when Aiden asked for us to send pictures of our trip, I don't even think you sent a picture of yourself or your wife, Michelle. It was like, look at this. Beer, Bloody Mary.
Okay,
beer,
that was my wife's
beer,
Bloody Mary.
Beer, Fong's Pizza, beer. There's not a single picture of your face on this. So I think it's natural to ask, how many beers did you drink in the great state of Iowa?
I don't know. I drank. Thursday I was double fisting on me on Thursday, but
tall boys nonetheless.
When they're free, why not? I don't know. I would say it's probably around 40-ish.
All right.
Yeah, Keith, the Cade Murphy, great meeting them, by the way. Awesome.
So the other question: how tall are you? You look like you're 6'8"? You look like an offensive tackle in that picture. Keith's like a solid 5'10", 5'11", and you look like you're a foot and a half taller than him.
Actually, I was an offensive tackle in high school, but we don't want to go back to those days. But yeah, I understand. Chris Hassel was fascinated with my size, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm a big guy, but I am not 6'8". I wish I was 6'8", but I'm not, and I don't know. I appreciate Keith inviting over us to the 1525 lounge. That was pretty cool.
I think we lost his mic, but yeah, this is Derek with Keith Murphy and his son Cade. We were at Cooney's Tavern. So I'll give a little recap. I don't know why we can't hear Derek, but I'll give a little recap of what we did Friday. So Friday night, we drove over to Bondurant, went to Reclaimed Rails. Oh, I think we hear you now.
I'm back. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So we went to Reclaimed Rails, like we mentioned earlier. Had a few beers with Van Winkle. Aiden was there as well. Very lovely establishment. It was actually the first time I'd been there too. I'd never been up to that brewery. It was good beer.
Really good.
And then before going to bed, you're like, all right, just take us anywhere. So I thought, why not Ernie's? Ernie's is like one of my favorite dive bars in Des Moines. We went for literally one beer. I think we were going to have a couple more. And then I got a text from Keith that said, why don't you take Derek to a real bar? I'm at Cooney's. So then we went like 15 minutes out of the way to go meet up for what we thought was going to be one beer at Cooney's. And then we were there for a couple hours and then ended up at 1525 Lounge.
Which we had no idea. We didn't
the Murphy
know what
Manor.
that was.
Yeah, tell the people what you thought 1525 Lounge was.
Yeah, so my wife was driving. She didn't really have that much to drink, so she was kind of doing the driving, and you told us this lounge, and you're like, oh, turn over here and go over there. And I'm like,
in the middle of the neighborhood.
Where the F are? Like, where are we? We're in the middle of a damn neighborhood, and Jake's like, oh, yeah, just stop right there, pull over right there. And I'm like, okay, well, I thought the same thing when we met up at Carl's on Thursday. We were like in the middle of this neighborhood, and the bar just kind of happened to be there. So I'm like, and it's dark. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is it. And then we walked inside, and it was Keith's house. That was pretty cool. And shout out to him. Great host. Excellent. Shout out to him appreciate his hospitality there, making us feel really welcome, pouring us drinks. It was truly a blast on Friday night.
Yeah, it was just a fun weekend. I mean,
yeah,
really starting at Confluence when you rolled into town. You were at the Angry Goldfish before that, but that Thursday we went to Confluence, had a couple delicious beverages. I had a couple downtown throwdowns, courtesy of the Murph and Andy show. Then we went and did our live podcast. shared a couple domestics over that. Then we went to Carl's place, one of the ultimate dive bars in Des Moines, and then we were at Brooks and Dunn. Like that in itself, that was probably enough fun for one day, but then running it back on Friday, and I know you had some delicious meals while I was at work.
What you smoking? Always got to hit that place up. Excellent barbecue.
What was maybe your favorite part of this trip to Iowa? I know it was your third time.
I don't know. We kind of just drove around more like we normally plan. Like I'll normally plan out our vacations. I think I told you this, like, we want to do these things. What day we hit them on, I don't really care. But this trip, we kind of just did more, socializing with you guys. I got to meet, Keith and Kate, his son, met Van Winkle, met Aiden for the first time. So met a lot of people that I've never met before, even at the Brooks and Dunn concert too. So met up with John too at Carl's. So just a great trip overall, meeting a bunch of new people, talking to people, and everybody's just so nice and welcoming to us. So that's what makes me, I always love coming back because it's just, the people are so friendly up there. Great food, great beer. It truly is. It's always a great time when I go up there. And I appreciate everybody that made me and my wife feel welcome. It truly was. It was a memorable experience just all around it. And it always is. And, I'm coming back in September. I can't wait for that. I look forward to that. I'll actually have more time when I come back in September, because this one was really like a 3-day trip kind of, because Sunday didn't really count. But I think the next time I'll have like 4 full days, I think. So I'll have some more time to spend. Yeah,
it was a blast having you up here. Cause it's crazy because it was just the second time we'd met in person, which doesn't feel right because we've been podcasting for
forever,
dang near a year now. But yeah, it was just fun to be a part of your trip up to Iowa and show you a couple of my favorite spots and just get to share some beers and laugh and introduce you to Murph and his son. And you didn't even, you buried the lead that you met local legend, actually national legend, Ed Wilson.
Yeah, he did. He showed up at Cooney's with us. Yeah, I forgot about that. Took a picture with him too, actually, where I think he was like shoulder height. He said he was going to get right up on my nipples, so he was right there.
Should we share the secret of your height, or should we keep that a secret?
I mean, I don't care. I'm not that damn.
No, we'll keep it a secret.
Is that just for hassle at this point?
Yeah, I don't want hassle now. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a fun time. What was your wife Michelle's? What was her favorite part of coming up? If you can speak for her.
I think just the same thing, just meeting everybody. She hasn't quite put, some faces or names to faces yet. So it's been pretty cool, I think, for her. For me to be able to bring her along with me is always great. We love to go out on vacation, travel across the country. So it was really good for her. And that was her second time to Iowa. So I would say this, the first time we kind of did a lot of the local stuff. We went to see the Capitol, went to, I think, 1 or 2 museums there, Sculpture Park. We did a lot of that stuff the first time around, walked across a few of the bridges there across the river. So we did that stuff, but this time it was kind of just more of a relaxing, kind of just didn't really have a ton of plans. So it was kind of nice for a change of pace for us.
Aiden, what were your thoughts on meeting Derek? Act like he's not here. You can
it was weird. Like, it's one of those things, like you said, we've never met in person before, but it feels like, we've known each other forever, that kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun having you and your wife up here. Brooks and Dunn was awesome. So yeah, great weekend.
Yeah. Come back anytime. Just sell your house in Texas, move up here. It'll be,
I think some people are worried about that. I can't. We're in the middle of building a house and doing a well, so it's a little late for that right now. But no, we always enjoy coming up there. We look forward to coming back. It truly is fun. It's a great place to be. I think I'll be my 4th time. I think, gosh, outside of living here, probably the state that I've been to the most is Nevada. I think we all know why, but outside of that, I think Iowa.
Reno, nice this time of year.
Yeah, Reno. Yeah. So I think Iowa is probably my most visited state outside of Texas and Nevada. So
Dang.
we're getting up there.
That's
Maybe one day I'll pass it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think we hit on about everything I wanted to hit on. Anything untouched?
I don't think so. Quick turnaround show. I don't think we've done 2 shows in this short amount of time, but with the way last week went, I think we had to, and I felt like it was right. It's good. We got to hit the draft, talk about Sanders, Travis Hunter, Iowa State, all those good things. So I felt like the timing was right for us to do a show pretty quickly here.
Yeah, well, if you've been listening this entire time, thanks again. The best thing you can do for us, subscribe to the YouTube channel if that's where you watch. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, do all of it, help us out, and then go support our great sponsors. WealthCharter Retirement Planning and Tax, Freedom Tire, Circus Sports Iowa, and of course, Channel Seed, because you've been listening in the Channel Seed studios. We'll see you next week.